Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod with Blake Smith today, founder and CEO at Allith Growth. Blake has an interesting background. We're going to get into it, mostly into startups. We're going to talk about funding as well. We're going to talk about Techstar and a bunch of funds that Blake was a part of. I was about to say Drake. I don't know why. Maybe because I'm listening to Drake today. This pod is brought to you by podpire.com. That's my podcasting agency. If you want to start, scale, be invited to podcasts like this one, you can hit me up, go to podpire.com or straight up on LinkedIn. I help you monetize podcasts. Blake, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and about Allith.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. It's really great to meet you. So Allith came out of really, after I sold my company. I had a company called Cladwell, and I was founder and CEO of that. It was a kind of a venture-backed startup, started in 2011, and then sold in 2019. And it was one of those weird sales where it was like getting a bunch of high fives on LinkedIn, but in reality, it wasn't enough of a life-changing sale that I never had to work again. Right. It didn't fund my interest in space travel or anything like that. And so it was like, and that's actually the case for a lot of founders, is that you sell the business, you work super hard at it, and it's kind of like, congratulations, you still need a job. And that was kind of a weird experience. And so, frankly, I had 5 kids at the time. I now have 6 kids. And so I needed to find work somewhat quickly, and I didn't really have the energy. I mean, the sale process and the building and then kind of all that sort of process was really like, it kind of knocked the breath out of me. And so I was like, I'm not ready to start another startup. I'll just start kind of talking to friends, see if I can help on the growth side. I've got a marketing background. We got investment from, we were like a pretty big consumer business. We got investment from Science Incorporated, who invested in like Dollar Shave Club, MeUndies, Liquid Death, like kind of top tier brands. And so I'd say I got a lot of great training on how to grow consumer businesses from a growth standpoint, both like with the organic content as well as with like paid content. And so I was like, well, I know that playbook. Let's see if I can help a company out. So I helped 2 companies out in 2019. One, we 25x'd. We went from $2,000 a week to $50,000 a week in revenue. The other, we 10x'd. Went from $10,000 a month in revenue to $100,000 a month in revenue, both in less than a year. And I'm like, hey, that's cool. Like, built real enterprise value. I was an investor in both of the companies. And I'm like, this is sweet. Like, I ended up exiting with one of those businesses, which is pretty sick. And so like, I was like, this is a fun model. I like doing the work. It's about 20 hours a week to help 2 companies. Like, this is perfect. And so I started saying yes to more businesses, and word got out, and suddenly I had more demand than I had supply of time. And so I was like, well, shoot, do I just say no to these businesses, or do I maybe create a playbook and see if there's a business itself here? Maybe this in between gig is the gig. And so I reached out to one other friend who is a venture-backed founder who had shut down his company. I was like, hey, would you want to be a fractional head of growth? And he said yes. And suddenly we were establishing a playbook and building it out. And then now I just recruit ex-startup CEOs, maybe when they shut down or sell their business, and I put them in as a fractional head of growth. I give them a media buyer, a creative, and we're almost like a weird little kind of hybrid, like growth consulting firm meets ad agency, but powered by venture-backed founders, which is a very weird skill set. These people are unhireable, but they're really good at taking responsibility and measuring, whether they're actually paying for themselves, on a weekly basis. And so, yeah, that's a super fun thing. I feel like building a services business is like the one thing you're not allowed to do as a venture-backed founder, but that's what the free market economy says it wants me to do. And so I'm paying attention to it. So
I think you'd be one of the best guy to speak to when it comes to a dictum that often goes through my mind and through my LinkedIn, which is that Silicon Valley hates consulting. I'm not sure why. It seems to me that also consulting is scalable and building an agency and productized services. And I've tried the Silicon Valley thing, yet without funding for like 5 years, hiring tons of employees, always investing in growth and so forth. For a good 4 to 5 years, it never really panned out. I fired pretty much all of my team this year. And consulting, I mean, it's quite simple. I often tell folks that let's say that there's 8 hours in a day, and a consulting session with me is 15 minutes. That means that there's 32 slots per day, and I can sell each of these slots at 1.5K a month. So that's 45K per day right there. So
Yeah.
it seems, and it scales. Why? Because on the back end of that, I get a bunch of clients. My brain gets bigger by the client, and I can then spread this out to an ecosystem. Plus, I can have AIs to manage a good part of the business, and I can zap the crap out of everything so that most of it is automated. So I don't friggin' agree that yeah, consulting is a no-no, or that it is not scalable. Why do you think Silicon Valley is so stuck up with that notion?
It's the Silicon Valley is based on the concept of technological leverage, right? There are different types of leverage. There's human leverage, which is what I'm doing. There's technological leverage. There's financial leverage, right? And so really, I'd say Silicon Valley is based on technological leverage, and so it's of course going to see any other type of leverage as less sophisticated, right? And so I'd say human leverage is just it is a different type of leverage, which is like, okay, cool. I'm marking up human beings, or I'm gathering human beings and getting them to conform to a service. And it is less sophisticated versus a bunch of robots. And you know, at the end of the day, running a services business means you have human problems. But guess what? Running a tech company means you have human problems too. So like at the end of the day, that's all problems are human problems.
In your case, I want to learn more about like your fees, your ICP, and how much clients you run on. And yeah, once we're done with that, I want to ask you if you will come back to the startup world and found a business which you will fully manage yourself. But let's start with the first one. How much you charge? Who do you target? And how much clients do you run per roster?
Yeah, we charge between 5 and 12,000, and the real difference is whether you get a full growth team, which means you know this ex CEO, a media buyer, and a creative. That's like 12,000. Just to get just the CEO is like 5,000, and that's on a per month basis. You pay upfront for a month. It's monthly retainer, always month to month. We have some discounted rates if you want to we can participate in the upside as investors, or doing rev share. But otherwise, that's generally the range. Our ICP is kind of split down the middle. It's an internal debate that we have right now. If I could wave a magic wand and get a certain type of client, it would be an ecom company doing about 5 million a year. Those companies typically are bootstrapped. They're super stable. We can grow those companies pretty significantly and stick around for a long time. In terms of people that it's easy for me to close, it's venture-backed founders who just closed their seed round, who are probably doing a subscription or SaaS business. I can close those all day, but there's a lot more whiplash that comes with them. The truth is that, you know, after 6 months, something changes on the investor side or something like that. And so they're not as amazing of clients, but we're probably really amazing for them. So right now we're going after those two kind of core central things, which is ecom companies a little bit more mature, or post-seed subscription or SaaS companies.
And what would be that magic wand, you know, because me, I do cold email, and yeah, I've targeted ecom various times. Ecom is targeted quite a lot, almost saturated with these cold emails and cold outreach and ads. So what is the problem to get them to book a meet with you and buy from you?
Yeah, my main referral source has been with ecom has been EOS Implementers, Entrepreneurial Operating System, the book Traction by Gino Wickman. I run my business on Traction, and the way that we run growth is very cross compatible with Traction, and so I can normally get a foot in the door that way. Implementers are always looking for fractional CMOs that they can refer to, so they'll refer them to me from that. That's been the best model for ecom. On the startup side, I can go direct, or I can go through VCs. VCs are great referral sources for us too.
Love it. Love that part. EOS though, you know, me, I fell in the trap of outsourcing way too much. I manage over 1,000 humans in my lifetime with the last couple of startups that I had. So where did I fuck up here? Did I not hire the right humans? Because nowadays it's about AI, and AIs that just don't disappoint me anytime. It seems that it's infinitely more scalable than that. What does it take to be successful with the EOS philosophy?
What does it take to be successful? Just follow the playbook. I mean, most businesses have run on this sort of playbook for the most part. Most successful businesses have weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual meetings that they kind of run through. They tend to report the same things. They tend to have the same head of marketing, head of finance, head of ops. Like it's just really just implementing what has worked in the past and just know that, hey, that's 80% of what we're looking for generally. Yeah, it's probably low tech and compared with like doing something on AI. But I use AI even as I'm building out playbooks and stuff for EOS. But at the end of the day, it's pretty tough to get away from humans entirely. Or if you were to have an entirely AI company and just you as the human, that's a different world. But even then, you have to have a weekly cadence of reviewing your numbers. I run my growth department for Allsmith by myself, but I have a 2-hour meeting every Monday with myself where if you review my scorecard, assign myself homework, and it's like I'm still doing the stuff even if it's by myself.
And what do you have to say about structure vs creativity and chaos?
Structure creates the world, well, it creates the boundaries in which creativity can thrive. Without boundaries, creativity will lag and we have trouble, right? Like it's too broad. It's way easier to come up with 20 ideas on how to increase the conversion rate on a specific landing page than it is for a creative person to be like, improve my business. Right. In terms of actually getting results, it's going to be way easier to come up with tangible tasks for a specific container of problem than it is to just like, when the world is open. That's my belief.
And do you feel that humans would be better at the creation aspect and AIs would execute, or will there always be some execution even in the best of us?
That's a good question. Um, I don't know. I've like tried using AI for even like website review. I've used it for creating posts for me on different social media channels and all that sort of stuff. And like I just can see it. It doesn't yet embody my voice. And I feel like from a creativity standpoint, that's the thing that resonates with people the most is they want to hear me as a unique human being made in the image of God or whatever else. Like people want that thing. And so until that thing comes through with AI, I just don't think it's been there yet. And I keep on trying to create a channel for like my voice or like try to do it, but it just can't quite embody it yet. And I might be able to get more clicks using AI, but at the end of the day, that's a short-term game for short-term prizes. Like I'm trying to build out an actual human network.
Because that was my next question. What's your long-term plan with Allsmith, and do you have any plans of returning to the startup game and really founding your own ecom, your own SaaS, or do you
Yeah.
want to stick to consulting and SaaSify consulting, or what's your master plan with that?
Yeah, I'm gonna work myself. I think this is a really cool niche that I think has legs. I mean, they're call it 6,000 new venture-backed startups a year. 8 out of 10 of those are going to fail or just return break-even money and not give life-changing wealth to their founder, which means that's like a new supply of 6,000 people a year that I can recruit and put in as a consultant. I think that's a pretty dope consulting firm. And those people have really great networks. So I can leverage their network to bring in business and then I can train up those people to deliver services to those people. Seems like a cool model. And so I'm going to keep on going after that thing. Eventually, I want to work myself out of it. And that I like to be more on the front end of building systems, seeing an opportunity going after it. But I would like to work myself out, frankly, because that's what capitalism is about, is like being a capitalist. And so I want to build it up, build out the system and move myself out of it. And then I think that there's an opportunity to raise a venture fund around this concept. And I think that there could be I see a lot of deal flow. I look at probably 20, 30 companies a week and like some of those are really cool opportunities that I've been able to participate from. And so I think that I could see a VC kind of coming out of it. In terms of me building up a startup again, I'm totally open to that idea, but I will never put my livelihood into the outcome of a startup in the same way. I've already made different moves. So like I bought a bunch of real estate. I've got, other companies that are spinning out cash flow. So I will never be fully dependent financially on the outcome of one startup again, because I don't think it's good for the stage of family or life that I want to have. But if I had a business that I thought needed venture capital and it's mathematically impossible to grow it without having venture, of course I'd raise venture. And I've got a great network of investors who'd be down to do it. Yeah, if that is helpful.
So what was your thesis with 6 kids?
Oh, what's my thesis? Yeah, my wife is she comes from a big family. She's the oldest of 10 kids. And so I've seen firsthand the beauty of her family as they've kind of become adults. And like, I went to a birthday party last weekend with them. I got a birthday party next weekend with them. Like, we're really tight with her family, and it's really beautiful. And so that's a big piece of it. I'd say I just have yet to have a kid that I've regretted. Um, and so it's like, okay, cool. I guess I should keep on going though, since I haven't regretted any of them so far. We've been blessed in a way that like we can afford it. And I don't know. I just feel like I've never regretted taking on more responsibility in my life. It seems to lead to more meaning. And I think that a lot of times in my generation of millennials, I think that a lot of times we're afraid of responsibility, or we see it as trapping us down. And I just feel like every time I'm like, no, I'm doing this. I'm buying this land. I'm going to stay here the rest of my life. I'm getting married. I'm having another kid. Like, each of those things has come back and blessed me 10 times more. So I'm kind of just going down that path. I don't know if we're going to have 10 kids, but we're taking it one at a time.
Yeah, no plans of stopping. Interesting. And in what way does it give you meanings, like moments that you spend with your kids and you kind of pinch yourself and you're like, wow, this is amazing. I'm seeing that young one grow, acquire wisdom and playing. So they bring you happiness, knowledge, and what is your definition of meaning?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I believe that the meaning in life is that we receive blessing from God or the universe or whatever you want to call it, and then it's our job to then return blessing back to others, right? And so it's like this sort of like you're receiving and then you're blessing out. And so I see my family as both a blessing in of themselves, but also a means of blessing other people, because I get to create a bunch of human beings who value the same things that I value, who and who want to be on a team with me now and hopefully in the future. And really, I am building it with the idea that in the future of that we can actually make an impact together. I hope to raise several coworkers out of these people, and I want to work with them the rest of my life because they think the way I think. They have a similar worldview to me, and that means that we could be a really cohesive and awesome team together, in hopefully making the world a better place. And that's really meaningful to me. So when I'm disciplining my kid, or like when I'm like training them or something like that, I'm thinking, hey, we're going to work together the rest of our life, I hope. And they don't have to, but I hope that we can. And so I'm trying to think with that in mind. This is not just like, I want my kid to be impressive so I can impress a neighbor and then they graduate and then I never see them again. Like I'm trying to train up people that I could partner with.
ROI, baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just kidding, but no, I have this same philosophy when I'll have my kids in less than 2 years. Not sure if we'll reach six, it will be less than three, but yeah, I'll have that in mind too. I'll raise little co-workers, and yet if there's finances behind it or not, it's interesting to build out a little brain and see it grow and seeing it doing it good. I actually want to start my school in less than 2 years when I'll have them. It'll be 100K tuition per year, and it will be 10 SEALs a day, 10 new SEALs a day, teaching them stuff and founders. Of course, would you buy in that school?
By doing a school of teaching kids.
Yeah, it would be on Zoom. It would be 10 SEALs and founders teaching them new stuff on a daily basis, whether it's meditation, whether it's personal finances and so forth. Would you buy in the tuition fee of 100K so I can put you on my list?
Yeah, well, think about it. I like the idea. I mean, essentially, that's what I'm doing with my kids, right? Like, I mean, we have breakfast together. I always got something we're talking through every morning at breakfast. We talk through stuff at dinner. Like, absolutely, I think it's super important, and I'm leveraging my network similarly.
So I'll put a 600K price tag on your head and
Yeah, perfect.
10% chance of closing.
Yes.
And your ROI on that would be probably around 30 million that I can calculate because yeah,
Yeah.
they would start their business. That's the goal, it's to have them start a business ASAP, manage their own money, gain independence as soon as possible. Because I was personally frustrated with the education system. I'm not sure why
Hmm.
I had to wait 20 years of my life to make money and understand this market, this economic slash
Hmm.
capitalist market. And once, I was exposed to it, it was sort of a shock, well, why couldn't we start a business at 6 or 7 and
Yeah.
start making cash?
Yeah. I mean, that's my kids. Like, so we homeschool, and I was homeschooled growing up. And so Yeah, they've all read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and they're at various stages of their investing journey. But like my oldest has a gumball machine and a lawn mowing business, and he's doing the thing, it's pretty fun.
Very nice. Any parenting tips for us?
Take your kids with you. Whatever you're doing, that's the best answer. Which is like, cool. You go on a business trip, take a kid with you, right? You go into a meeting, take a kid with you. Go to the hardware store, take a kid with you. Because that's how you actually equip children to live as adults in the world, is you let them see what adult life is. And hopefully make it attractive to them. Yeah,
Love
that's my main
that.
thing.
Very simple. And buy a minivan in your case, right? 6, like, yeah.
We have a monster van. We got the Sprinter van, the Mercedes Sprinter van. Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm gonna buy for my or nomadic journey, and I have plans to travel with the kids into that. So yeah, good purchase. Where can people find out more about you, Blake?
LinkedIn's probably my number one. Yeah, they can look me up on there.
And I'm Charles Cormier, host. That was another CEO Wisdom podcast with Blake Smith.